Okay. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you. Coming to you with a little bit of an update here as I'm recording this. It is Thursday, December 15th. It is about 6:30 p.m. in the couple of hours before the sun changes signs. So it's about 9 o'clock tonight, Mountain Time, where the sun will move from sidereal Scorpio into sidereal Sagittarius, crossing the Gandanta point, this tumultuous zone in the zodiac where a water sign meets a fire sign. And we've talked about this a lot before, where water and fire like don't mix, and they're the ingredients for life, right? Like, what is a human other than a bag of warm water? And yet if you dump water on a fire, it goes out. If you boil water, it evaporates. So they don't mix, and they must mix for the creative destructive process that is life to occur. So that's where the sun is. And so this transitional moment, just a time to pause. I hope you had a day where you didn't have to do much, and tomorrow might be wise just to review everything that happened today, double check, make sure everything went smoothly, because when the sun, source of power and energy, is in this transitional place, it's things get lost in the move, right? If you've ever moved houses, it's really easy to lose stuff, and even if you don't lose it, you lose track of it. So that's where the light of consciousness is today. So, looking at the chart for the United States for the upcoming month, this is, in my understanding, the traditional practice of mundane astrology is when the sun changes signs, we look at the chart for the nation in which we reside and see what that chart is relative to the current chart, and that gives us a sense of what is the socio-political outlook for the coming month. So that's what I'm doing here. And if you're watching this in my newsletter, then I'll put an image of this chart directly below this video, and you can see that the uh, the chart of the United States. I'm using James Kelleher's chart. There are many different possible charts for the United States depending on which moment you choose as the moment of birth. James Kelleher has rectified this chart to July 4th, 1776 at 6:30 p.m. in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So there's lots of different valid opinions. I tend to trust this one for this purpose at least, and so you'll see that chart in red. Those planets are red in this chart, and the current location of the planets are in blue. So if you're signed up for the newsletter, you can see that. If you're not, go to multidimensional.club and sign up for the newsletter there, and you can access it. So. Um, the United States chart in this reading is Sagittarius rising. And so the sun has entered the first house of the United States. And this is generally a time where we can feel confident. And sun in the first house is this very powerful placement. You meet people with sun in the first house, they're the type who walk in the room and everybody notices and they command. They are the center of gravity. They are the embodiment of the Sun King. And so in the US's chart, the sun lives in the seventh house. So one of the things that we see here is this is a time when the US actually has the confidence to live by its values. The sun has the capacity to project its confidence and interact with its adversaries, with those other countries with whom it is in relation, with confidence. And it takes confidence to treat others as equals. And in terms of foreign relations, the US doesn't always do that, does it? But in this case, when we're feeling this confident, this gravitas, then we can treat others as fellow sovereign, and that's what's available right now, is this capacity to be in good relation with others as equals, and sort of live according to our highest values. Ninth Lord, the sun in the first house, gives us this values aligned action, which is a source of authentic authority. And so this month, it's actually a time where the U.S. can live up to its promise and be a leader in the world in a good way, and really hold the aspirational values that are built into the nation's DNA. Now, in January, when the sun changes signs again and moves into Capricorn, that switches a little bit, and those who we've been treating as equals and sort of on equal terms with, they get a little more aggressive, and our communication goes a little bit haywire, and we're a little less confident, and things might get a little messy, and whether there's inadvertent miscommunication or deliberate sabotage of some sort, I wouldn't be surprised if come mid late January there's some sort of foreign relations snafu where the message is lost in translation and it leads to some form of aggression, whether it's just saber rattling or what else. The tendency at that point is going to be for our adversaries to be a little more proactively aggressive. They become more powerful, they become a little bit more aggressive, but they're doing that in a very wise way. Whereas right now, our adversaries strong, steady, but reserved, more on an internal sorting themselves out. We can sort of see that happening with Russia right now. Like they're not going anywhere, but they're a little bit sorting out their own mess. Come mid late January 2023, you might expect that to shift a little bit. Um, so what else? Yeah, so this at the start of this solar month, we have Venus and Mercury also there in Sagittarius, and not so close to the sun that they're being combusted. So, and they're both in temporal, friendly dignity, and so there is this element of playfulness and creativity and pleasure, and with the sun there, it's like it's a good time. We can feel confident. We can enjoy ourselves, so it's a enjoy the holiday season, enjoy the confidence of being in this country at this time. Uh, it's not always going to be that way, and there's lots to be anxious about. One of the things that happened at the start of 2020, January 2020, Saturn moved into the sign of Capricorn. This was the start of the period known as Sade Sati, the 7.5 years in which Saturn is transiting the natal moon. And this is generally a time associated with anxiety, with struggle, with challenge. It tends to be one of the most difficult periods in a human's life. And we can see that happening in the life of the United States as well. I may, for a future video, go back and do some more research and find some historical data to line up with these periods in the past. Happens every 30 years or so. And so in January, I think it's January 18th, that Saturn will change signs and go into Aquarius. And so this really marks the astrological conclusion of the COVID era, right? If Saturn moved into Capricorn in January 2020, then what happened, right? And what's been happening for the last 3 years. So we see that finally shift, and Saturn then is about to be directly on top of the natal moon of the United States, which it brings a lot of anxiety, puts a limit on our self confidence. Our collective ego is going to be quite challenged, and so we will see a little bit of a let up in terms of economic problems, and it's possible that the worst is over in a lot of ways, although we'll see the Fed continues to raise rates and tighten the economy. But what the chart suggests to me is that the worst of the economic period may be over, but the anxiety is just beginning. The nervousness about the state of the world, the state of the economy, the state of our republic is just beginning, and is likely to be pretty intense over the next 2.5, 3 years. And so we want to be ready for that. And Saturn really just wants us to do a reality check. And the worst case scenarios are only possible if we pretend that they're not possible. right? If we continue to go la 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 la, then that's how evil festers, and we get away from the grounded, practical, humble approach to existence, which is Saturn's mo. Right? Saturn is the public, it is the proletariat, it is the working class, and so there's this promise of this Saturn transit through Aquarius, which again starts in mid January 2023, of a new way of relating to the working class. It definitely brings the emphasis to the people as the counterbalancing force to the ruling class, to the bourgeois class, right? So shifts happening that we want to be aware of, and the antidote for anxiety is reality. Even if reality is very difficult, very challenging, to be directly in contact with what is actually happening makes it workable, as opposed to some illusion or delusion, in which case there's nothing we can do because we're not actually, the rubber's not hitting the road, and so there's no possibility for skillful action. um, yeah. So the United States, according to the Kelleher chart, is also in the middle of its Saturn Antardasha, and so it's a period ruled by Saturn, going through our Sadesati, and so it's a lot of Saturn for the United States, and anybody who's been through their Saturn return, or has a direct experience of what it's like when Saturn starts running your life, you look around and you see that's what's happening, right? Limitation, restriction, all the beautiful big visions and grandiosity that are very much built into the United States as a project are getting a pretty harsh reality check. So that's okay. That's appropriate. But it's helpful to know that, isn't it? So we can adjust accordingly, and not have excess anxiety. One of the things I think about all the time is, like, am I having an anxiety attack, or am I having an appropriate response to the circumstances? And so to discern between the letting our conspiratorial minds run wild, or get overwhelmed with fear, like, okay, uh, to what extent is fear an appropriate response, and how can we use that information skillfully to make an adjustment that reduces it, as opposed to just becoming overwhelmed and paralyzed by it? That's what it seems like Saturn wants, and as Saturn moves through Aquarius is all about doing things in a new way, and so that's the opportunity here. So that's about what I wanted to say for now. Let me just take one look at my notes here. Yeah, I think that's okay for now, and check back for more updates coming soon. In the meantime, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and I'll see you soon. Until next time.